the stand-in.
So, I mean, this actually kind of goes in line with some of the arguments that I've made as to why we should not be funding the war in Ukraine or by giving over $3 billion a year to Israel, because really you could have paid reparations to those of us who are considered American Negroes, or some people say American freedmen. Unfortunately, a huge number of Nazi elements in Ukraine, which we're giving money to, which sounds really out of whack when you think about it. Like, well, that money really could be going towards us here at home, especially to the people who you owe, but instead you're paying it towards Raytheon and Honeywell and Northrop Grumman. Your thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, a lot of that money that they're giving all of these other nations, we look at that and say that that's our reparation. We look at it and take very great offense to it, especially when you're talking about a lot of these things that we're doing are done at these are options. These are not things which incorporate our national security. These are not things that incorporate our national economic investment plans. These are things that are done to devalue the conversation of reparations, and we believe it's actually more nefarious and it's trying to devalue the actual monetary value of the reparations that will come to us. So if the dollar is as strong as it is today, can you imagine the dollar from the day they actually cut the checks, as it would have been the dollar in 1985 when I was born, the dollar in 1920 when you could get a pure cane sugar soda, an all beef Nathan's hot dog, and a bag of chips for like 35 cents. The value of a dollar over the course of time should be growing in its economic strength. But due to these fraudulent investments by what we call enemies of the state, we believe our government has been taken over by the Confederates ever since Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. Confederates had worked their way up, so much so that the Dixiecrats, who was the party of our enslavers, has us now as a party so vile that we're loyal to voting Democrat without wondering if these people policies are actually good for us. We've become a tool for our own destruction more than a tool for our economic and own benefit. So when we see these things happen, and politically that we see it done at the behest of government infrastructures, we look at this like these people are not American first minded. These people aren't thinking about getting America's sins clean. They're not thinking about cleaning America's roads, America's railways, which are absolutely in almost dilapidated condition. We literally have just different type of things with homelessness, with our economic investment in America. We make a lot of money for our country, and to not see the reciprocal value of that effort in our country is actually criminal. So to see these dollars going outside of our country, even when Americans are saying that we're wanting our reparations that is owed to us, it's something that it's borderline treasonous. Because if you look at what America is supposed to be for Americans, what we see today is not that. Even reparations, it's an American plan. The American Negro's dollar does not go outside of America. We're not sending our money when we get it across the borders. We're not looking for the first Western Union to take our money and send it out to the Caribbean, Africa, Europe, Asia. Our money goes from North Carolina to South Carolina, from Virginia to New Jersey, from LA to San Diego, from Texas up to North Dakota. We're not sending our money out of the country. So our money has an ability to actually build up the economic structure, the economic investment of America, because nobody spends money faster than the Negro people anyway. They say that the dollar is in our community leaves, what I think, Brother James, and they say a mere 13 minutes or 13 hours, the dollar is out of our community. Well, can you imagine when we get reparations, how much more economic investment we'll make in our community?
So I want to also ask this question because a lot of people think that reparations is based on just race. If you're Black in the United States, you will be owed reparations. Can you explain why that wouldn't be the case?
Yeah, reparations is a lineage-based conversation. The only people who are owed reparations is not every Black-looking person. It's only those whose ancestors would have been valid on that American Negro Special Field Orders 15. Because everybody whose ancestor or who's a descendant of the American Negro atrocity, American chattel slavery, know what 40 acres and a mule is. And we understand that that's what we're owed. So not every Black person in America is owed that. But this also goes to show how dynamic our conversations can be, right? Because you may have a brother like my wonderful American Negro Jamin Mason, who's a mulatto, who has an American Negro dad and a non-American Negro mom. So you have that mix of a white American, Black American Negro who literally who will be owed reparations. You may have somebody who was who's a quarter Negro, they'll be owed reparations. So we'll have this conversation, but it will be for those who literally on their paperwork have lineage of those who have paperwork from American chattel slavery. It will not just be based on you have black skin and you've been a slave somewhere, so you get money from America. That's not how it actually goes. It is a lineage based conversation. And I think anything outside of that is not specific. So it is for the American Negro descendants, American Negroes from American chattel slavery, and those descendants.
Give a shout out to grandma real quick. She said, "No, baby, we were not slaves. We didn't do that. You know, we now my grandpa was a sharecropper. He was involved in that coming up in Rome, Georgia. That's where my people come from. We weren't slaves. So does that mean my aunt that grew up and went to the first segregated school, does that mean she's not owed?" And now I would say, hell no, she is owed. But that's a separate claim. That's outside of the claim of what this claim is for. This claim is specifically for the black American Negroes that built this country with slave labor, straight up and down.
Also, one thing about lineage, which makes it amazing as well, is that we can have those descendants who would have been in American chattel slavery, such as those that Harriet Tubman had moved outside of America under the Underground Railroad up to now Nova Scotia. Those people as well would be tied to our reparations claim because they are lineage of our people who literally ran away, and therefore they are still our people, no matter how far or wide they may go. We still had conversations with another sister who was absolutely of our lineage in the UK. She was from the Johnson plantation. She's just the first generation person in the UK. But prior to that, all of her ancestors were here in America. We had a conversation as well with someone else, like Dwayne Wade Johnson. Everybody knows him for being the Rock and this Polynesian guy. Well, his dad is actually a Johnson from the Underground Railroad that Harriet Tubman had traveled from America, brought to Nova Scotia, and his dad and a Polynesian woman came together and created Dwayne Johnson. This is why his name is Johnson. And many of the Johnsons up there in Nova Scotia, which is a big American Negro people community, literally are Johnsons from the Johnson plantation. Dwayne Johnson and the Tate brothers, they're owed reparations. So it's not about whether you're rich, you're poor, you're half Polynesian, half white, quarter Negro. Your ancestors through your bloodline was a part of this atrocity. So when reparations checks get cut, you as a descendant of those ancestors who are owed and would have been owed are therefore the descendant and living vessel of them. So therefore you are owed as well.